Hi, I'm Jupiter Darkling, and I'm here with Crisis Darkling. We're going to have a little chat about one of our favorite things ever, dinosaurs. It relates to our art because we have a dinosaur-related art business called Solosaurus Rex.
So, as an artist, like, they've been used with science all along, like paleo artists. Paleo artists, and so yeah, art's been used paleo artists with science and the artists like have worked hand in hand for years. So obviously the scientists do the research and the artists create the work, and but it's just in the direction where it's going. So as an artist, I've looked dinosaurs from being a child and growing up with Jurassic Park, and I'm finding that I know science is science, but there's a theory out there, like with the T-Rex. Has it got teeth? Has it got lips? But so many people because the latest thing now, that theory that's come out is that the T-Rex has got lips. So when I look on YouTube and when people are making comments and saying like, somebody will say like, they believe that they had teeth and it don't look right that it's got lips. So many people are like, educate yourself basically, like science is science and it had lips, and because that's the latest theory. But what people are forgetting right now at the moment, it's 50-50. Everyone's forgetting that it's just a theory. And there's I'll have to find him, but there's I'll have to research who he is again, but there's a paleontologist out there that goes through in depth. It's in 2 parts, and he talks about like why the T-Rex had teeth, and although they shed the teeth, it's slower than more similar dinosaurs, but what he says like it just makes sense on certain things, and just as an artist, like it doesn't look right. And I look at it and there's a gut feeling that I've also got with it. So I appreciate science, but we're never going to know unless we get a mummified like T-Rex. But I've tried it myself. I've like created artworks with the lips and the teeth, and I am swinging more with the teeth. But I'm just finding there's too much abuse out there. Like anything with online, it's like people like, it's almost like you're stupid, to go against science. And it just comes back down to, again, everyone's forgetting it is just a theory of 50-50. And what makes the latest theory don't mean that that's right. The first theory could be real. And when you've got a T-Rex showing teeth, it's like, oh yeah, it's for the movies and why the movies are wrong and this and that. But there's a few things that I'm finding that they did get right back then as well. And I know films are different, but the way, and at the time I do remember as a child when Jurassic Park was out, that it was the most accurate version of a T-Rex. But with that being a film, there's got to be obviously some level of like art involved as well to make it look realistic. And yeah, there's some T-Rexes that I've seen models of them and they look pretty good. With the lips again, but the short on the lips. From what I remember, the science with the lips with the T-Rex is that the lips are really far down, and there's barely any bottom jaw like showing, and sometimes they look like a dog almost. It's looking more like a mammal than anything. There was more beard, and than a mammal. So why are they looking more like a mammal? So I did a experiment before with so I took a chicken photograph and I warped it in Procreate, and I used the liquefier on it and took a bit of time, and it's really rough, but it was just pure experiment for myself, and I actually got the features of a T-Rex, and it's surprising how little distortion you've got to use. And one thing I found, like the bottom beak of the chicken, was almost there. It still had the holes there that you've got on the skull, like near the lip, the line there with the lips. Another thing about them holes, I can't remember off the top of my head what the holes are called, but they're for the nerves to feel things. And apparently, in science they're saying like they didn't really have that many holes, so that suggests that they had lips. And I came across something before, and there's a few things that I've seen where animals have got teeth showing, and not many lips as well, not many holes in the skull. So to me, again, it backs up the old T-Rex thing again, that it can't be concrete, the way people think with the lip thing. Yeah, so back to the chicken experiment that I did. So I took a chicken skull and warped it into a T-Rex skull, and it just looked almost identical in a way. And I also took a real chicken head, not in real life, in a photo, warped it, and it looked like a T-Rex. So it was chicken with the flesh and the feathers. Warped it in, again, it looked like a T-Rex in the flesh. So give me an idea like what the T-Rex could have looked like. And so I also found like on some models the T-Rex is looking a bit too meaty. It's looking like a cooked chicken. The muscles on it, it's just looking a little bit too. And there's something else that I found online as well. There's this skin graft that they found on like T-Rexes and similar species, and it's different parts of the body, and it's all suggesting scales. You look at these models and they look like chicken skin almost. They're smooth, and again, T-Rex, I believe they had feathers, but what they found on the neck, and one place where T-Rex I think they could have had feathers was on the back of the neck, but yet they have found T-Rex skin on the back of the neck that showed small scales, and there's no evidence of feathers there, and there's no evidence of feathers on any similar on theropods. So why is the feather thing still out there? And people, I think 2019 the scientists got really heavy with the feathers, and these skin grafts have come out and recent, and people are still, I think, not aware of like the latest research, because they'll be like, oh, where's the feathers? But yeah, when it comes to the teeth, oh, the lips is the right thing. That's it. They believe that's what scientists are saying, even though it's 50-50 still. So when it comes to the feathers, people are still believing they had feathers, and or they still could have. Who knows? But I think if anything, there was theropods that was in the Arctic that may have had feathers, and this maybe where the confusion has come from, because of course it would make sense they had feathers for warmth, but the T-Rex that we know, and scientists now are saying that they didn't have feathers because they was in a warmer climate and they would overheat because of the body size. So one thing that has surprised me that I've not really heard much about, but the T-Rex arms, and it gets laughed at for like it's got small arms, but what I'm looking at when I look at like beds, the arms they look similar to like human shaped arms, but they're bent way backwards. Like when you look at a bed, a skeleton of a chicken, and look at the way the arms are. So I'm finding, if anything, that the T-Rex arms have got wrong, and are they being overlooked? Because I think if they had feathers anywhere, and from these skin charts that I've seen, there's no skin found on the arms. So I'm thinking if they did have feathers, could have been on their arms, and I think their arm, what was it, mini wings that they had? I think that's as an artist, and it's just a good feeling that I've got on that. I found that the arms are a little bit more pulled back than what they're really showing now. And the T-Rex arms have changed from the days of Jurassic Park, because there was outright arms. Now, yeah, the claws was like face downwards. Now the claws are faced like inwards. I've noticed like in museums, so they've changed that. But again, I think the arms are protruded a little bit too forwards than they really are. And So if you look at like chickens and certain like ostriches and them sort of birds, they've got little mini claws on their arms, which are similar to T-Rex when you look. So did T-Rex have these little mini claws within these feathers? But yet you look at these birds, you don't see the claws, but in the skeletons you can see the claws. So again, it suggests to me that did they have feathers, these wings? And there's, you know, again, you don't need wings to fly, of course, with the SARS, and that's why, like, statistically, you know, certain birds can't fly. Ostriches, they're too big to fly. So of course the T-Rex couldn't fly. So what? It's always been laughed at what the rams was about. Well, if they are so little and pointless, doesn't that point to it was wings? And just because they've got wings don't mean they're of use. They don't have to fly. And so many birds now can't fly, you know, and penguins have got wings but can't fly. And if the arms are so pointless with the T-Rex, they've got to be wings. There must be. And I could be wrong on that again, or there could be a development of wings, so there still could be just scaled arms with skin. And it could be the development of wings, I don't know, but similar species of a T-Rex had bigger arms. And there's also some similar species to a T-Rex, again, that have got even smaller arms, but yet the scientists have got, I can't remember the name of it, but the arms are actually like,
oh yeah,
way back. It's the one with the horns, it looks a bit devilly.
Yeah.
I always forget the name of it, but why has that got the arms positioned in that way, you know?
And what I want to add to like the wings and the chickens, I remember one time seeing on this news segment that scientists had genetically modified this chicken to not grow wings, so you could see the resemblance of the little arms they had with a T-Rex. Of course, that is cruel and quite sad, but the resemblance of the T-Rex arms was uncanny. It was absolutely terrifying to see that. It's basically a chicken but with little T-Rex arms running around.
There's also a video with that a chicken walking with a tail on it again, and you can see a dinosaur in it.
Yeah.
With that, and how it moved again with like this weight of the tail on the end of it.
Mm.
So there's also that I remember.
Yeah, and like of course there's so many different theories about like what dinosaurs may have looked like, and for example, what I really love, my favorite dinosaur, the iguanodon. My God, when my fiance showed me these magazines, these covers of what the iguanodon used to be like portrayed as, I did not recognize it. It had thumbs? What was that all about? And when I worked at this dinosaur museum in 2019 for an internship for my uni, they had this glass building full of dinosaur skeleton replicas. And one of them was the iguanodon, but I was standing up straight, and I thought to myself, my God, that's like Godzilla. That is so cool, but it's a plant eater, and it stands on two hind legs to grab the leaves from trees to eat them. But it can also run on four legs. And I was just so fascinated by it that it became my favorite dinosaur. And the way it's been portrayed now is significantly different from what my fiance remembers from the magazines, because I remember him telling me, where did the dinosaur with the thumbs go? Well, yeah.
So I remember you telling me about your favourite dinosaur, and I remember thinking, like, when did this dinosaur like get discovered? And it wasn't until recent I looked into it. It was the dinosaur with the thumbs that I remember. And it's had a few little reinventions since, but that was it. And I couldn't believe it was that was a dinosaur. And yeah, looking at it now, it looks so natural. Looking back then, what was the thinking at the time in that way?
It was so clunky.
But again, go back to that we all, that was the latest, and it wasn't that long ago, you know what I mean? It's like Jurassic Park days. It's not that long ago that scientists believed that. And not to, you know, dumb down science or out like that, but if science could be like, looking back now, what was the thinking then? And it wasn't that long ago that can be so wrong now. And I think because we're trying to figure out what they look like, that we've got all this technology now, it's like an insult to our intelligence that, oh, well, they can't be wrong now, and no, they can be. And when you look at that compared to the lips, again, you can see it's got to be 50-50, of course it has. And because they didn't live in water, again, it's that decay to the teeth. But they did shed the teeth, just a lot slower than the other similar species. But the fact they did shed the teeth in the amount of time, days it took to shed the teeth, are they really going to erode in that time? So I've never understood that. Something I've also found in research with skulls, I've also found a little bit, and again, it's when I saw that skin chart being published, the guy who was saying it at the time, he says, I don't know why this is not out there more than what it is, but for some reason the skin on these dinosaurs are just not being published enough. And there's so much information out there, but it's so hard to find. And Google it yourself, it is so hard to find. You've got to do deep research. And it's only been by chance from not actually researching the skin or anything like that, but skulls that have of T-Rexes that they've dug up. You can see scales where, roughly in the place where, if you think of like Jurassic Park, that sort of dinosaur, you've got these biggish scales where the lips would have been, and they're way up there. So it doesn't make sense that the lips would have been down there. And again, there's no report, when I found them images, there was nothing based on that being the skin or anything like that. It was just what I observed as an artist, because I'm looking for that all the time in my own research. So it's just them things that it don't make sense in that way to me.
No, definitely. I agree with you on that. And another thing that I find so fascinating is the whole Nanotyrannosaurus and the T-Rex debate. Like, wasn't a Nanotyrannosaurus a juvenile T-Rex, or is it a complete species on its own?
So we talked about that. I remember we agreed that it had to be a species on its own.
Exactly.
Because there was too many changes that it had to go through.
Yeah.
For it to be a T-Rex in the end, and I've always found, like, why was that dinosaur, like, why is it being thrown into a baby T-Rex? Why? And why is it that something similar was a species on its own? And to me, it's as clear as look at a raptor. It's like throwing that into a baby T-Rex. It just didn't make sense to me. They were totally different, and yet it looks like a young T-Rex skull. But it had from what I've found in research, it had longer arms than a T-Rex, even though it was a way smaller dinosaur. But this paleontologist was saying, how can it don't work like that? You don't have, as in your youth, you don't have bigger bones, and you don't have bigger arms. You know what I mean? Like, why would the T-Rex have smaller arms than a nano? And again, the fusion of the nose. When they found the skull of the Nanosaurus, it was fully fused, whereas the T-Rex, what I remember, got fused later on in life.
Yeah.
So again, them things like didn't make sense with that.
No, and what I also find fascinating is the fact that scientists throw it on and for example, the Triceratops, juvenile Triceratops looks so different from an adult Triceratops, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but what we just said, the changes that a Nanotyrannosaurus had to go through are so drastic to become a T-Rex that it just does not add up. Whereas you look at a juvenile Triceratops, you can see that, yeah, it's different, but you can see where the changes would lead to. Whereas for a Nanotyrannosaurus to become a T-Rex, changes would have to go backward, like the bones would have to shrink and everything, and that just does not make sense.
Yeah. And I think, again, the thing with dinosaurs, there was so many similar species at different scales or sizes. You had Nanosaurus basically was a mini T-Rex, and if that was its own species, you've got all the way up, and there was dinosaurs bigger than the T-Rex, and again, they're recently discovered. But I think because I was judging that based on the world we live in now. You've got donkeys, ponies, horses, zebras, they're all of different sizes, but if they was all to go extinct, would you say a donkey was a juvenile horse?
No.
Or a pony? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what the Nanosaurus is. I think it was the pony of the Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah.
But looking back, you can understand the mix-up.
Yeah.
But like I say, the limb size is what tells it all. From what I know with ponies, the small. So as far as I know about ponies, I've got shorter limbs, I think, from an horse. So, but like I say, if they go extinct, the mix-up would be understandable. And again, the fascination thing on about horse species, that's what fascinates me about being an artist as well. If a zebra had gone extinct years ago, would you ever guess that it was black and white stripes? You'd base it on the horse species, the rest of them. You know, you've got donkeys that are so distinct as a donkey, you've got a horse and they're so distinct, but you look at an horse, that roughly they're all brown. You've got a donkey, they're all grey, but they look so different. But you look at a zebra, there's an in-between on them, and you just would not guess. If zebras had gone extinct, you would not guess. And that's what fascinates me about dinosaurs as an artist, that you have got that creativity. And yeah, of course, we've got to find out these accuracies about it, you know, whether T-Rex had lips or teeth. But one thing that I love is, as an artist, you've got that license to just play with it. Now, I always thought that, you know, things like dinosaurs like T-Rex was just these monocolours and stuff like that. But one thing that I always felt myself, again, that they've got that shading under, what do they call it? That again, I forget, but there's a name for it where a lot of species are like light on the underneath and the dark on the top. And it's nature's way, again, to like camouflage them. So I've always thought that's natural, but again, it's only recent that they've discovered that dinosaurs was like that. So again, as an artist, my gut was right a long time ago in that. And I get science have got to prove things. They've got to, as an artist, you can't just assume and go by your gut. Scientists, I get, can't just, oh yeah, my gut says this, so it's right. But do we rely too much on that, in that way, that we've got to rely on science? Is it that our gut we've got to also rely on, because we have a gut feeling for a reason? So as an artist, when it comes to like them sort of things, you're recreating things, what do you go by? Now we do know about, obviously, you know, we know about zebras, we always have. Because of that mix, it changes everything in that way. And when you look at now that they're on about dinosaurs was a lot more colourful than they ever thought. But of course that makes sense, because look at birds, and that's where birds come from. Something else that people still don't know, and I get laughed at for saying it, because people think it's the young child in me that loves dinosaurs still. But when I tell people that birds are dinosaurs, they're like laughing. You know, it's like I'm not joking. They are, and dinosaurs have not gone extinct. They've just evolved into birds, and that's it now. And it's fascinating because, like, when I visit my fiance, we don't really see herons here, but when I go there, you can really see a dinosaur in it, and it's fascinating because it's so rare. And you pictures don't do it justice. When you see it, you can just see. And when you look close up at a swan, the feet. I saw once this close up of a swan. And it was like, it's just a claw of a dinosaur. You can see it. So we've got to look more at birds and look how vibrant they are. They're so different, I think, to a lot of, apart from fish and things like that with the colours. But look at a lot of species, things are pretty similar. And I think that, again, that's what's shocking about like a zebra sort of thing. It's, it's the horse family, but yet it's so different. And but yeah, we all know birds are so colourful. So, and there's birds today that again, part of my research as an artist, I've got to look at like certain birds and just look at a turkey that I think we take for granted how strange they really do look. But when you look at a close-up of a turkey, you can see dinosaurs in them.
And that's what I want to add. When I had my internship at the Dinosaur Museum, Oertijd Museum in Boxtel, I remember I was working on this illustration for the Betasaurus bredae, which is basically the Dutch T-Rex. It's a small carnivorous dinosaur that lived in the regions of the Netherlands where it used to be. And it was the only carnivore living in that area, so that's why it's been called the Dutch T-Rex. Well, nicknamed. And I was working on this illustration, just sketching out poses for it. And then my boss came by, and he would always like update me and the other intern about the newest dinosaur theories and new articles and newspapers and stuff. And he came in and he was super excited, and he said, "You know what they found in China is blue feathered pigment from a dinosaur." And the other intern and I were just looking at each other like, "Are you serious?" So we read the news article, and we read the article, and we were just so stunned by it. And then when I was creating the image for the Dutch T-Rex, the Betasaurus bredae, I asked what color he wanted the dinosaur to be, and he said, "Well, I think the dinosaur had dark blue feathers." So I had the task of creating a feathered dinosaur, which is very fascinating to me, especially because they have this, what do you call it, like a little bit of like a statue in the Oerbos, which they call, it's like this woods at the back of the museum with statues of various dinosaurs. They also have the Betasaurus there, but what I found fascinating is that it's green and completely smooth. It's scaled, but I had to create a feathered version of it, because that's when they started like doubting themselves, as in, wait, is it feathered or does it have scales? And that's what's fascinating to me, because you can never be certain until you find hints, until you find clues, until you find evidence. And I can't fully remember what the blue feathered pigment was that was found in China, but I remember thinking at the time, like, if they can find colors of certain dinosaurs, wouldn't it be amazing to like find pigments from other dinosaurs in different locations, and then slowly piecing together what colors dinosaurs, possibly could be? Because blue is not something that I would guess for a dinosaur. Blue is such an exotic color. Like, who would have guessed that?
Blue's also the rarest colour in nature now, and there's only I think one butterfly, I think maybe a frog, but what I do know, there's a little spot on a butterfly which is blue, and when I read it, I thought I expected it to be like a full butterfly, and there's a little piece of blue on this butterfly that's the actual pigment of blue as well. So if they've found pigment of that, that's something that needs to be mentioned about, because that must have been pigment. So did dinosaurs have actual blue pigment, and why is it so rare now? Yeah. Which also leads to eyesight. Now, I'm not a scientist, but the reason why scientists think that blue doesn't actually exist is because a lot of animals can't see the colour blue. Mm-hmm. And if they're finding that pigment, why is that not being mentioned? And that way, because they're a creature it's got to be there, because blue is a trick. You've got all these blue birds, you've got all these blue animals in society, not society, in nature, sorry. So, but the blue that you see, and I've got this butterfly on display that I bought myself, and again, it's beautiful to look at, so metallic, and it's all trickery. And scientists, I think, what I remember before reading about that animals like kind of tricked the blue because they couldn't see the blue, so blue had no reason to exist. So is it they got so advanced because there was a lot existed a lot longer than humans and mammals. If you think of like the full world on a 12-hour clock, I think humans are in the last like couple of minutes. Mammals, dinosaurs have got like 20 minutes worth of the Earth's time in that way. So, of course, did they develop better eyesight in the way that... Is that why nature actually gave them blue pigment? So, if blue's the rarest colour in nature, it's so rare to find blue in... it's so rare to find colours in dinosaurs, fossils. To find blue, was blue really popular and was it really the blue pigment? It must have been for it to be there.
Yeah.
So why? What are the chances of finding a blue pigment feather? And does that mean that blue was massive then? You know, in that way.
Yeah.
That it was so common. That's why the chances of finding this rare blue feather, it happened to be blue. Total contrast to what we have now.
Exactly.
There would be no evidence of blue now if everything in this world now went extinct, because butterflies are so fragile, that pigment is going to get lost.
Yeah.
So, how has the world like developed in that? But is that because we're mammals and we're all kind of new compared to like dinosaurs in that way now? In the Earth's time, we're nothing. We're only just starting to like develop blue now. In real pigment, the rest is trickery. So, alright, that could be nature's way again. The trickery could be the most advanced. He's tricking you to see the blue because it reflects the blue light that you see. And is it that pigment existed back then because you literally saw the pigment? So again, is that where nature advances, that it can trick you to see blue? Which I guess could be more advanced, because when you see the blue in a microscope, it's so complex. It just looks like a load of waffles,
Yeah.
like on top of each other to me. And that's what reflects the light in the blue with the trickery. But if that is the case, then dinosaurs was unique in that way then, because if they had blue pigment, blue is the rarest colour in nature.
Yeah. So that's it for now about dinosaurs, but trust us, we'll most likely come back to it at some other time, because we have a lot to say about dinosaurs. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully we'll get to have you again in our next podcast episode.